So good morning. We are going to do a update to the Get Ready for Elections. So let me share my screen. There we go. And so as I said, we did our first call on July 10th, and now we have an update for August 27th. So the first thing is to understand the rules and to understand that if you're a 501c3, there are certain rules that you would have during election season. We are a 501c3 at Strategies for Children, so we can do voter education, we can get out the vote, but we cannot endorse candidates. So that is something to know. You should just know kind of when your professional life and your personal life, and the Alliance for Justice is a great guide to help you understand the rules of the game. And then where to start. So in Massachusetts, our Secretary of State, the Secretary of the Commonwealth's website is excellent. And we'll look at it a little bit later as well. But that is the main link for the elections page. There's lots of other sections, but that's the elections page. There and you can see under the voter resources, they also talk about the upcoming elections. They have all the dates. And then we are just revising and updating our 2022 elections page. So we will have a 2024 elections web page that we're going to launch next week. And so, as we talked about in July, to understand who is running, where the elections are happening at the state, local, federal level, the deadlines. We're going to talk a little bit about the ballot questions today. So you'll see the deadlines that were required for the ballot and the signatures. You can check the Secretary of State for the official list of candidates. And you want to get to know the candidates. You want to see their photos, read their bios, go to their websites, understand their experience. And then start making contact lists. So often what we hear in early childhood is you know who represents you where you live, because that's where you vote, but you also know who represents the programs that you work in. Okay, so breaking news, next Tuesday is our state primary. And so you had to be registered by August 24th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And when you go to the primary election next Tuesday, the offices that you will be voting on are on the left-hand side. So U.S. Senator, U.S. Representatives, Governor's Council, State Senator, State Representative, the Register of Deeds, the Clerk of Courts, and the County Commissioner, and only in some counties. And we're going to look and see what the ballot looks like. You'll notice that the presidential candidates are not on this primary because we already had our presidential primary in Massachusetts. So just as a refresher, remember in Washington, D.C., every state and territory has 2 U.S. senators. And in Massachusetts, we have 9 U.S. reps. So Senator Elizabeth Warren is up for re-election. And then these are our 9 U.S. representatives. And you'll see in the ballot, they are all up for re-election. And then remember, in our Massachusetts state legislature, we have 40 state senators and 160 state representatives. They are all up for election, all 200 seats. And we have the list of who was not running for re-election. So in Massachusetts, I thought I would do this first. There are 3 state senators and 15 state reps who are not seeking re-election. And again, I will post these slides in the follow-up email so you can see, you can look at these more closely. So the 3 senators are Senator Sue Moran from the Cape, Senator Mark Pacheco, and then Senator Walter Timilty. And you can see that Senator Moran and Senator Timilty are both running for other offices. Senator Pacheco is retiring. Then there are 15 state reps. So Rep. Dylan Fernandez, Sarah Peak, Daniel Carey, Matthew, oh my gosh, Mutori, I always pronounce his name wrong, apologies. Jerry Cassidy, Smigny Pithigtelli, Ruth Balzer, Angela D'Amelia, Representative Denise Garlick is not running for re-election. And remember, Representative Denise Garlick has been the education chair in the House, on the House side of the Joint Committee. So since she is not seeking re-election, we would expect that there will be a new state rep, excuse me, a new chair of the Education Committee on the House side. Representative Paul Schmidt, and then Representative Kay Khan, Representative Peter Capado, Representative Jay Barrows, Bill Driscoll, and William Strauss. So that's 15 out of the 160 are not running for re-election. So again, we'll put the link in chat about where do I vote MA, and you can see who represents you right now, and if there is an election in your district. And so this is the state primary. These are the links for the, you can see the state primary ballot. And then you can also see the a Democratic Party candidates and the Republican state primary candidates. So at the end of the presentation, I'll go back, but it will show you like who's so if there's any, I don't think there are any Republicans running for US rep. I have to check that, but you'll be able to see the your primary ballot. Let me just see. Then on November 5th is election day in Massachusetts and across the country. And then you'll see the electors for president and vice president are now on the ballot. So when we go in September, it will be state races. When we go in November, you will see that that's when we vote for president and vice president for the electors. Same, so you have to vote, you have to be registered to vote by October 26th. So there's still time to register for the election day in November, and polling hours are from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now we know this summer both the parties had their conventions, and as we met on July 10th at the 9:30 call, we were soon to come was the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. As you know, we've seen some changes. So the Republican convention met in Wisconsin, and the delegates selected Donald Trump as the Republican nominee for president. Last week, 2 weeks ago, the Democrats met in Chicago, and they chose Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for president. And so here they are, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. They both have vice presidential candidates. Tom Walz, who is the governor of Minnesota, and J.D. Vance, who is a sitting U.S. Senator from Ohio. And then there are other presidents for other parties for candidates for president. So Chase Oliver is a Libertarian. Robert Kennedy Jr. in the last week has announced that he has suspended his campaign in selected states. So I put his support behind President Trump in those states. He will still appear on the ballot in states. So it's a little unclear about kind of if he's suspending his campaign or if he's continuing to run. Jill Stein is the nominee for the Green Party, and Cornel West is running as an independent. Now, in Massachusetts and other states, another way to get things done through Election Day is on the ballot, is our ballot questions. And so this is a little bit, all these links, there's a great kind of explanation on the Secretary of State's website where all this information comes from. So the day that we had our last elections call on July 10th, the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Bill Galvin, he certified 4 questions to appear on the November 5th state ballot election. And then there was a 5th question that appeared to have enough signatures but was being challenged. So you can see that in order to get a question on the November ballot, campaigners need to file petitions with at least 12,429 certified signatures with the Secretary of State's election division by July 3rd. And this was the second filing for these petitions. So last year, if you have a ballot question, you have to be working the year ahead of time, and then you need 74,574 certified signatures. So if you want to get a question on the ballot, Year one, you have to get 74,000 plus signatures. Year two, you have to get at least 12,429. And then you can see, this is the number of signatures that each of those ballot potential questions got. So the state auditor's authority to audit the legislature, the elimination of MCAS as a high school graduation requirement, unionization for transportation network drivers, and then limited legalization and regulation of certain natural psychedelic substances. And then the fifth question was the minimum wage for tipped workers. And you can see that there was that objection, there was a ruling after July 17th. We'll give you an update on that. And then, so after the ballot questions themselves get certified, then they have to get numbers. And as if you can remember in past elections, many of the campaigns are like, vote yes on 3, vote no on 1. So the numbers matter. So on July 25th, there were 5 binding, that fifth question became certified. And then you can see the questions. So they are the same that I just mentioned, but these are the 5 that will be on the November ballot. So when you go in November, and we'll talk more about this through the fall, you will have the candidates that are running for the election, which we saw, and then you will have all these questions. Now, under the state law, the secretary assigns the numbers. And so they say that it's assigned in a manner that will ensure the best possible layout given the length of the question summaries. And so this is another important part. In September, all households in Massachusetts will receive an information for voters booklet. And I will show you, this is what it looked like for 2022. So it gets mailed to everybody in Massachusetts, and it's a paper booklet that contains all the details information for each of the questions. There is the text of each question, as well as a summary of the proposed law, and then the full text of the proposed law. So there's a summary, and then you can read the whole thing. And then they have statements about what a yes vote means and what a no vote means, because sometimes it can be very confusing that there's a question and you're not sure what you are voting for when you say yes or no. So for each one of those 5 questions, there will be like, if you vote yes, this is what it means. If you vote no, this is what it means. So it has an explanation and then arguments drafted by proponents and opponents of each question. And then there are also there are sometimes questions in certain cities with additional local or non-binding public policy questions. So in September, once this all is kind of up on the website, we will go through this again. But when we met in July, none of this had been certified yet. So now we know we have 5 ballot questions that have been certified that will be on the November ballot. Again, look for this. If you've ever seen this, it's very helpful to go through, and you should prepare before you go to vote in November to just read through. You might even want to write down what you want to vote, because again, it can be confusing for the yes and the no. And so we know that elections are an opportunity. So you got to know the key dates and timelines, which we kind of just went over. Thinking about your own contact list and your plan. So like, who do you want to reach out to? You want to think about candidate outreach and education, especially if you have an open seat in your communities and your districts. And an open seat means that the person who has held the office is not running for re-election. So for all those 15 state representatives and 3 state senators, those would be considered open seats. You want to think about your own teams, like who can be on the in-house election expert, who can be helping remind everybody the dates. You want to check out candidate websites, their social media, look at their platforms. We will think about briefs and proposals. We will have questions that folks can ask at candidate forums. You can have one-on-one meetings. You can engaging the field and parents. You can do election-related activities in your programs. You don't have to vote for the candidates. You could just talk about the idea of voting and why it's so important. Work in partnership with other groups, and then really think about infiltration. How do we make sure that candidates are talking about the issues that we care about? And shared this back. This is from the 2014 gubernatorial candidate by Charlotte, who was 8 at the time. She had just left for her sophomore year at American University. And this was, we had a candidate forum in 2014. Now remember, the governor is not running for re-election in 2024. The governor is elected for 4 years, and so that will be a 2026 election. But in 2014, we had a candidate forum for gubernatorial candidates. And Charlotte said, I like this speech because it's about children, and I am a child. But the problem is I didn't really pay attention. So the truth is, I know it is about children, but what about children? And this can feel like what voters are feeling like. We hear a lot of people talking about some of the issues that we care about. So how do we make sure that we get them to talk more about children, families, what they're going to do around early education and care and early childhood? And so just remember that nobody is born knowing how to do this, that we all have to learn and practice. Sometimes you can think that you might have a question or that you feel like you should know this information. Please consider us a resource. It pays to prepare, don't wing it. So think ahead. If you see candidates, they will be out campaigning over the next few months. So if you are kind of have the chance to talk to a candidate, what do you want to ask? And remember that you are smart, powerful leaders for children. So I'm going to stop share. Any questions or thoughts or anything I said that okay. This is great. Thank you. I learned so much in this presentation. I can't help but think this should be presented to every 18-year-old. I'm going to make my 19-year-old daughter watch the recording. Hello, 19-year-old daughter, when you're watching the recording. Okay, can you explain why they want to remove the MCAS? Do you know something that I don't? Our son is in his last year of high school. For us as parents, believe the test has helped determine if the kids are prepared or not. We notice mediocre results and more kids are less prepared. So Paula, I think so when we see the for and against removing of the MCAS, we will definitely share more information. I think there has been a lot of discussion, and this is about standardized tests. What is it really measured? Are there students that cannot pass it? Should it be a graduation requirement? There have been many discussions about this. MCAS was created as part of the 1993 ed reform in Massachusetts. And so I think as we see more information, Paula, we can share. And maybe we can even think about having both sides come on the 9:30 call if we can arrange that. We will definitely share the information. There have started to be editorials. The media is covering this. There are social media. Oh, that's right. So Ron clarifies it's not to end the MCAS, it's to stop using it as a graduation requirement. So the test will still be used regardless of the outcome of this vote. That's a really important part because sometimes this is why ballot questions are so tricky, because you can bring your own perception or mental model about what it's saying. That's why reading the yes and the no parts are so critical, because you may think that you're voting yes for something, but it's really you're voting no, if that makes any sense. Let me just so if you also, this is the website, this is the link for you to find out right now who your state representatives are. It will also tell your district. And so if you go, and this will all be available on our elections website. But if you go to that link, you type in the number of the place where you live, whether it's an avenue, a street, or a boulevard, and then the city and town, and it will give you your voting information. Oh, we have some chat. Laura's asking Ron a question. For your expertise, would this referendum also end school accountability, student outcomes, not just a graduation requirement? So I'm sure Ron will answer, or potentially in the chat. While we're having that, I will show you the ballots so you can just see what they look like. And so I'm going to first look at the Democratic State Party ballot. And so this is for the September primary. So you can see Senator Warren is the senator in Congress. The representatives, they are all Democrats, so they are all up for re-election, all 9. And then you can see this is the governor's counselor. One of these, you'll be in one of these districts. And then the senator, for this one, they list all the senators. So you can see if you live in Bristol, Norfolk district, it will be Paul Feeney will be on the Democratic ballot. And I'm not going to go, if you scroll down, you can see all the candidates running. And I don't want to go all the way down, make people dizzy. And then let's look at the Republican one. And again, this is, you will get your own ballot, which is why that first link about where you live is so important to know who represents you. This is the Republican. Oh my goodness, close your eyes. So it has the same. Oh, I see what they did. I got it again. I did Democrat again because I saw that was very strange. Stop share. I may have done the same link. It is doing that. Let me get back up to there. Oh, I see. It starts at the bottom. That's very confusing. Okay. So you can see that the Republican state primary. So there are 3 Republicans running for U.S. Senator. So Robert, Ian, and John are 3 Republicans. So the Republicans will vote for one of those people to then face Senator Elizabeth Warren in the election in November. And then you can see the first, so these are all the 9 U.S. reps. Only the 8th and 9th have Republican candidates. So that means the Democratic candidates who are running for U.S. representative do not have opponents. So we'll have all this in our on the website. Okay, Ron has an answer. The standards of which MCAS is based don't change. Mass is federally required to have standards in place and a means to assess them. You don't have to use a particular test, but we do have to have statewide grade level standards and assessment tools. Thank you, Ron. Okay, so this has been recorded. We will share the recording. We'll put it on the 9:30 Call YouTube playlist. If you have questions, especially about what you can and can't do as organizations, you can certainly promote elections. You can say that it's election day. We know in the past, some programs have really focused on supporting families and either staying open late or, making sure that everyone's aware that it's election day. So please let us know if you have any questions. And also let us know if you're talking to candidates, if you attend a candidate forum, keep us posted on what's happening in your communities. If you are registered with either one of the parties, you're probably already getting tons of mail. So direct mail is one way, and then you will also see, it will start ramping up on social media. All right. Well, thank you for joining the call today. We will continue to talk about, the elections, the deadlines, the timelines. Tomorrow, we are going to hear from Work Group 8 of the Early Childhood Agenda, and Hillary O'Doy will be talking about their public awareness campaign that they are just about to launch in September. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow.